Welcome to Friday Conversation, presented by Friday Culture. Today, we have Priscilla Leung, our legislative counselor, with us. Today, the topic is about one country, two systems. And interestingly, I think throughout her life, she's an eyewitness of one country, two systems. Hello, Priscilla.
Hello. Thank you.
Can you share with us why were you studying in Renmin University of China in the 1980s? Because we know that back that time, there were very few Hong Kongers studying in mainland.
Yeah, thank you, Henry, to invite me, to give me a chance to share this experience of myself with our young people, as well as for those who have experienced the birth of one country, two system together. I was a university student when the issue of joint declaration occurred. And you know, young people like to explore new things, right, especially for some issues that will determine the future of Hong Kong. So since I was a year 2 student at the university, I was already very interested in the drafting process of the Basic Law. And then I had a year experience in the United States, witnessing the whole process, how the Western media reacted to the joint declaration and the issue of our handover. And at that point, I decided to participate more in the real process rather than just an observer as a student. And I can say my decision to go up to Beijing to study at Renmin University to follow a professor, Xu Chongde, who is the prominent basic law drafter of the whole process. It was one of my best decisions in life because I witnessed history. And it is just so close to understand the differences between Hong Kong basic law drafters and mainland basic law drafters, and in particular, to understand the sincerity, the tolerance, and the perspective of the mainland drafters who are so considerate of Hong Kong situation and try their very best to preserve the uniqueness of Hong Kong under one country, two system. And that is what I witnessed.
Okay, so you were in Beijing for 2 years, right? You know, what did you see and what people have you known and what's your kind of impression about the whole process, including drafting and consultation, both within the mainland and in Hong Kong?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And the 2 years, you know, I was a Hong Kong girl. When I went up to Beijing, I did not know how to ride bicycle. My Putonghua was not good.
A lot of culture shock, I would suppose.
Yeah, and they have all different kind of dialect to speak Mandarin. So sometimes I stayed there for 1 whole hour. I did not understand the lecture. However, I decided that I need to understand the life of the intellectual in Beijing. I need to understand how they look at the basic law. And I visited the home of my professor many, many times. And whenever we discuss about Hong Kong, he asked me what is my impression, because he wants to understand how Hong Kong young people look at the handover. And he discussed with me the how they see the significant value to have the MPCSC interpretation power. And at that time, I remember Hong Kong basic law drafters were asking for deleting Article 158. So I asked my professor, why did you need to put that Article 158 in the basic law, while so many Hong Kong people do not understand what is interpretation power of National People's Congress? And Professor Xu told me that was one of the most important provisions under the basic law to protect one country, two system, because they actually had 3 paramount principles to draft the basic law. The first principle is to preserve sovereignty and unity. Secondly, to preserve high degree of autonomy in Hong Kong, but not absolute autonomy. Third is to maintain the existing system of Hong Kong. And so he said that for the whole piece of the basic law, apart from Article 1, apart from preamble, Article 158 is the link for Hong Kong basic law to link up with the Chinese legal system, because basic law is a national law specifically drafted for Hong Kong, but it's still a Chinese national law. And Chinese national law in China, the interpretation power is in National People's Congress Standing Committee.
As an eyewitness to the whole consultation process, can you share with us what views are being incorporated? As we know, many Hong Kong people were quite worried about their future at that time.
And many Hong Kong people were worried that our existing system would not be preserved. So the whole legislative intent of the basic law is to preserve one country, two system, as well as to tell Hong Kong people that actually China is going to preserve the existing system of Hong Kong, like we will keep capitalist system, we will continue to have low tax system to preserve the competitive power of our economic system, free economy, free currency, as well as we will keep the existing life, the practice of life. Also, we continue to have the common law system that we are familiar with, and moreover, they give us the court of final appeal.
Right.
That we did not have during colonial time.
Yes. So after you studied in Beijing, why did you decide to be a scholar and then afterwards a politician?
It is also just a very unique opportunity. I have never expected that after coming back to China, I could find a job. But immediately, this is really, I think that means history. Hong Kong needs this kind of legal talents, and they need people to teach in English.
Oh.
So I just grabbed the opportunity. We need to prepare young legal talents for the handover. So our graduate from CityU, actually we have first offered a compulsory course on Chinese law and also basic law for all our graduates whom I have taught. And after teaching this basic law and participate in many of the legal reform in China, I realized that Hong Kong community became very political in looking at the basic law. It seems that some people put some agenda there, which did not reflect the legislative intent of the basic law, trying to bring Hong Kong to the road of independence. So I think it's highly risky, because if Hong Kong want to preserve one country, two system, we need to respect one country and love one country. So I think that I should go to the front line, not just stay in the comfort zone. You know, at university, we are much more comfortable than you became a politician.
Yeah, Priscilla, we know Western media and politicians recently, they say Hong Kong is becoming more and more one country, you know, or another Chinese city, and we are losing judicial independence, things like that. So how would you respond to that? In particular, after the national security law, you know, how would you respond to these kind of criticisms?
Yeah, I think people should respect reality and facts. There are a lot of fake news as well as too much agenda when people talk about one country, two system from the West. They did not want to see us successful, but we succeeded. Although we experienced some ups and downs, but you see, at the whole, Hong Kong keeps our competitiveness, our system, low tax, high-speed development, as well as free economy. All these we keep preserved. Human rights issue, we never had so many cases before the handover than after the handover, purely because basic law has stated and written so many provisions to protect human rights issue. And so we respect rule of law. We have plenty of cases under judicial review on constitutional law. So we even provide much more human rights and also the room, the freedom of expression under the basic law than before the handover. But I think Western media did not want to accept that fact.
How about national security law? So what do you think about it? You know, does it infringe any rule of law or other principles?
national security law of the Hong Kong SAR, if you really do a comparative studies across the world, every single country, including United States, the Patriot Act, they have the Patriot Act, which is much more stringent than our national security law. So if people really look at what happened in the outside world, our national security law is just a typical national security law of any other country to protect our unity and territorial integrity. At the same time, you can see Hong Kong adhere to the principles of rule of law very firmly. In the most recent index of the rule of law, Hong Kong ranked 19 under 139 countries on rule of law. And in Asia, we rank the 5th. We still rank very high in the World Index of the rule of law. So we have to look at the facts, not just rumors. And I firmly believe, and I'm of the view that Hong Kong adhere firmly to the rule of law and common law principles, as well as the Hong Kong Basic Law, which is one of the most liberal law in any country.
Right.
We allow foreigners to be our judges. We allow foreigners to be our legislative council, and the maximum percentage can be 20% in our legislative council. I think none of the other so-called Western democratic country would allow their top civil servant or judges to be holding foreign nationality as well as legislators.
Finally, Priscilla, you mentioned Hong Kong is having a hybrid law system, meaning a combination of common law and continental law. So how can this hybrid be more powerful like a car instead of conflicting and contradictory to each other?
You know, a hybrid child always have the best DNA of their parents. And Hong Kong Basic Law carries the best DNA from the two systems. And I believe if we can look at it with love and hope, we will definitely maximize the advantages of the two systems under the support and protection of one country. You do not adopt a hostile and antagonistic attitude towards this because we are one family, we are brothers. Hong Kong, with other cities of the mainland, we love each other. With that attitude, we should and we can maximize the best from one country to system under the protection of the basic law.
Thank you very much for sharing your own story as an eyewitness of one country, two systems. That's the end of today's Friday Conversation. Please share, like, and subscribe our Friday Everyday channel. I'm Henry Ho. See you next time.